afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Hal Bailey, the Provost and Academic Vice President here at the University, and I'd like to welcome you to the dedication of an extraordinary building, the largest, most dramatic, and most intellectually inclusive building ever constructed by the University of Scranton. Now that that building and all its associated renovations have been completed, the Loyola Science Center encompasses all the traditional sciences, from philosophy on the 5th floor to physics in the basement. You're looking at that the wrong way. It's the foundations built up. It is a fundamental spiritual truth of the Jesuits that we find God in all things. This spiritual commitment finds the light and presence of God in a potentially transparent world, a world full of rational truth and beauty. Our sciences pursue that truth and beauty to make what is difficult to know accessible and transparent. I must say we are now graced with a building that matches that quest, and we gather this afternoon to dedicate it. Although I know what's behind me, it's not necessarily as bright as it was yesterday. But even in the rain, the magnificence of the creation that this building investigates, is dedicated to investigating, I think shines through. Many people are responsible for this accomplishment, and I'd like to take a moment now to acknowledge a number of them and to thank these important contributors for their work. I'd first of all like to thank EYP, Einhorn, Yaffe, and Prescott, the architects, and Quandel, the construction folk, for having put together this wonderful building in a short time, in a perfect way, or a semi-perfect way, and on schedule. So to the people from EYP and the folks from Quandel, I say thank you. I would also like to thank government. It's not often you get to do that these days, but government has played an important role in this building, and as a consequence, we have representatives here today from Governor Corbett's office, from State Senator John Blake's office, and from Federal Senator Pat Toomey's office. They all represent important contributions to this building, and we thank you very much. I'd also like to thank two men who are present, Pennsylvania Representatives, the Honorable Sid Kavulich and the Honorable Ken Smith. Of different but also significant importance, I would like to mention and thank those alumni associated with the university for their contributions that have led to the financing of this building and the naming of the 3 halls. First of all, in front of me here, Mary McDonald, whose contribution supported the Dr. Herbert and Mary McDonald Hall. Thank you, Mary. I would also like to mention and thank Joanne and Carl Keener. Their contribution has led to Keener Hall, which is a little bit away. So I thank them. And I'd like to thank as well Dr. Frank Milani and his family, after whom the 3rd hall in this building is named. So thank you to the Milani family. Now, critical to the successful planning and construction of any complex building, and this one is about as complex as it gets, is the building shepherd. The shepherd's responsibility are just what you would imagine. When there is 15 years from the first imaginative hints of what is possible to the final polishing of the handrails, there is a strong tendency for parts of the building and correspondingly the attention of those planning to inhabit it to wander off in unexpected directions. Initially, 15 years ago, this was the responsibility of the dean. And Joe Dreisbach, who is hiding in the corner somewhere, should be applauded for his pioneering and creative efforts to get this going. We all thank you, Joe. But when things got serious and construction loomed, it is the building shepherd's responsibility to keep this remarkably complex operation on course while satisfying an infinitely large number, and growing for that matter, set of concerns. Our next speaker is the man who best knows every inch of this building and all the joy generated and the blood spilled that allows us to celebrate today. That man is Jorge Gomez, an associate professor of biology, and I invite him up here for his remarks.
How'd you like it up there? Nice? All right, great. Thank you all for coming this afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here. And I'd like to start this talk with 65 million years ago, when none of you were alive, but scientists believe that a large asteroid struck the Earth, causing massive climate change. And while many point to this event as one of the ones responsible for the mass extinction of many species on Earth, including our friends the dinosaurs, it's important to note that a lot of these drastic changes in the environment can cause the emergence of new, highly adaptive and highly successful forms of life. It was thought that it was then that the mammals started to become prominent, that flowering plants started to become prominent, and they made the Earth what it is today. So the opening of the new Science Center can be viewed as a drastic change in the environment. Many people are scared of change, but change can be embraced in many good ways. This structure redefines the concept of a learning space. It's a structure that emphasizes human interactions as a critical part of our education. It's a structure that unites our traditionally separate and disparate academic disciplines. It's a structure that says the center of science is an atrium in a coffee shop. It's a radical change in an environment, and it can bring forth new life. It's an exciting time in the university's history. So looking at this beautiful and awesome structure that surrounds us, we must remember that ultimately it's a shell. The architects, the accountants, the construction company, the committees, we all built this shell, but it is everybody's job here today, students, faculty, alumni, friends, to really build the culture, to define the learning environments, and to establish the traditions that will reside in this building for years to come. It is how we all adapt and respond to this new environment that will allow the emergence of new and exciting forms of life, new and innovative ways of thinking and learning, and new relationships with all those who walk through these hallways. These relationships are critical. Human interaction is critical in the sciences. Despite its commitment to impartiality, science is essentially a human endeavor. And it is only through the exploration and understanding of our humanity that science blossoms into its fullest form. The interaction of individuals from different disciplines is critical to the evolution of new and exciting ways of thinking. I believe that by nature, the development of innovative thinking cannot take place in a formal classroom shackled by a lesson plan. The goal of science learning is for students and for faculty to take facts and theories and apply it to things they have never seen before. to new problems, new situations, and to other areas of inquiry. This is impossible to do so independently from one's individual experience. Thus, by definition, this interdisciplinary learning is different for each one of us. One of the goals of a liberal arts education is to give students the tools and the opportunities to generate these new concepts, these new ideas, these new theories, and apply them to situations they've never seen before. And hopefully this building does just that. So yes, much has changed in the University of Scranton and will continue to change because of this building. But as I stand here looking out, talking to the people yesterday, talking to everybody today, I also realize that despite this building this massive transformational structure, there is much that will not change. That there is much that we do not want to change. We don't want to change that students are always going to be the center of our lives and the focus of our efforts. We will always value the wisdom and contributions of our family and those who have come before us. Our students will always be welcome here, even after they graduate. The humanities will always be an important part of science. We will always treat each other like family. We will always keep our community and our relationships at the center of our lives. We will always be a community of faith. And we will always take pride in what we do, have passion for what we do, and we shall always promise to do more and to be more. So today, as we dedicate this building, we celebrate the things that have changed, and we also celebrate the things that will always remain the same. Thank you.
Thank you, George. And I think it's fair to say that George is himself unshackled and spends his time unshackling his students, an example of which is our next speaker. Geralyn Cross will be representing the students. She is a senior biology and philosophy double major. Just like the building, she includes it all. And she is a member of the special Jesuit liberal arts program. Geralyn is not only a marvelous student who embodies this idea of the Jesuit wise woman, mastering the sciences from metaphysics to physical chemistry, she is also, as Dr. Gomez pointed out, a woman who does ordinary things in extraordinary ways. So I'd like to invite to the podium Geralyn Cross.
I hope this is one of those extraordinary things. I'd like to say thank you for attending the dedication ceremony for the Loyola Science Center. Just 3 years ago, across the way, what we affectionately now call Old Loyola, I was standing in my freshman chemistry lab. My classmates and I all gathered around a window to see the giant hole that came around seemingly overnight in what was once the St. Thomas Hall parking lot. That giant hole is now the building that we are standing in today. My classmates and I were having fun, guessing on what it would look like and what would be in it. We assumed it would just be a more modern, fancier version of Old Loyola. Really, we were praying for larger classroom desks. Well, not only were our prayers of bigger desks answered, we were also given a beautiful building beyond anything we had imagined. When I first entered Loyola Science Center, I was struck by how much natural light is in the building. I wasn't used to having an actual window in my lecture halls because Old Loyola doesn't have any. This abundance of natural light is paired with large, open spaces and high ceilings. These create a warm and inviting atmosphere, not just for science majors, but for all students of the university. I guess you can say now that the science majors are the cool kids, because we have the cool building. The Loyola Science Center truly lives up to its designation as a human endeavor. because it challenges the idea that the study of science is somehow an independent venture. The layout of the building, with all of the study spaces and meeting spaces, lends itself to increased communication and collaboration between students and professors. The study nooks are bright, inviting, and you can write on all 4 walls, which is a great alternative to the library. They also make studying alone or in groups more enjoyable as studying for a test can be. The setup of the faculty offices also encourages collaboration with students and professors. The meeting space outside of each office acts as a neutral ground between students and faculty, where a student who is not familiar with a professor may be more familiar and more comfortable coming to see them. One big difference that I've noticed between our former Loyola Hall of Science and our new building is the faculty and student presence. It's hard to walk through our halls of the new Science Center and not run into someone you know, and you have to have a friendly conversation. My friends and I often go to Bleecker Street Cafe for a muffin, a sandwich, or a cup of coffee before class. It's the first time that I hang out at my buildings before class and after class. Academically, the Loyola Science Center is second to none. Science and technology are rapidly evolving, and this building reflects that evolution. The classrooms have dual projectors, document cameras, and power outlets, so each student is available to use their laptop. One of my professors, Dr. Gomez, often uses one projector screen to show a PowerPoint of a concept, and uses the next screen to show a video animating that concept. For a visual learner like me, it's paradise. The laboratories are also new and modern and bright. I used to dread going to lab, especially organic lab, in the old Loyola Hall of Science. It was dark and kind of depressing, but now each lab is bright, it has lots of windows, and you don't feel closed off. It's also kind of fun to have your friends watch you do fancy experiments. It makes you feel like a scientist. In short, Loyola Science Center not only promotes science education and research, but also collaboration and communication between all majors and between students and faculty. On behalf of the students, I would just like to thank everyone who so generously donated their time and resources to making this building possible. The Loyola Science Center has already and will continue to improve the amazing legacy of science education and research at this university. Thank you.
Thank you, Geralyn, and don't worry, you lived up to your billing. That was great. Thank you. Our next speaker has spent the last 33 years living down an ethics course taken from the guy who's now introducing him. The world has a very narrow circle to it, and things come around to haunt you. Frank Pern is a member of the class of 1883. Neither of us have been here that long. A class of 1983. He is a long-serving member of the Board of Trustees, currently the vice chair of the board, but importantly, for many years was the chair of the Finance Committee. As I'm sure you're aware, his support in the Finance Committee was critical throughout the years that we were developing, planning, and implementing the construction of this building. As the saying goes, no money, no masonry. I'd like to introduce Mr. Frank Pern of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Hal. I appreciate that very much. As Hal said, 33 years ago, I had an ethics class with Hal. Notwithstanding that, I graduated, went on to a long career, and hopefully can give something back. When I went here, I was an accounting major, and Geralyn, O'Hara Hall was the cool building on campus. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to begin by offering our heartfelt thanks and gratitude to all those who helped to make this marvelous center a reality. The board was inspired by the vision for a new science building that grew from the collaboration of faculty and academic administrators. At the same time, we asked ourselves hard questions about how the university could afford such an ambitious project at a time when the economy looked anything but optimistic. In the end, we were convinced that this project had to be done and done right. Today, we celebrate the teamwork that made it all possible. I want to thank the university's faculty, staff, and administrators for their hard work, and to acknowledge our presidents, Father McShane, Father Pillars, and Father Quinn, for their efforts to see this vision to fruition. Your 15 years of planning and the devoted care you gave to this project shows in every classroom, laboratory, and study space, in every inch of this nearly 200,000 square foot building. Among the compelling reasons the board was so enthusiastic in its support for the Loyola Science Center was the strategic role that it plays for the University of Scranton. It is a valuable recruiting tool to attract and inspire the best students. It capitalizes on already stellar science and pre-med programs. It serves all of our undergraduate students, as each student is required to take a science course. And it serves the wider community, our neighbors, through science education, programs, and lectures. Through the Loyola Science Center, we declare to all that science education at Scranton is just hitting its stride. In the spirit of the Magus, so important to its namesake, this building will challenge each of us to do even more with our science programs and with the Jesuit education we provide to all our students. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, again, I thank you very much.
As has already been mentioned, the conception of this building began 15 years ago. And every member of this community becomes part of the flow of the university. When we all join the university community, we inherit an ongoing enterprise, an ongoing commitment that we received from everyone that came before us, and that our responsibility is to simply take up and pass on, we hope, in a much better situation than what we got. Continual improvement really needs to be the result of all of our efforts and all of our commitment. It is interesting for me now to invite to the podium our next speaker, because of everyone involved here, he's the most recent addition to this effort. But the key here is that we and he pick up that effort and continue to move it forward. This building is an instantiation of that effort, and I think as we inhabit it, as George pointed out, we have the opportunity to improve and move forward, not just this building and our science programs, but the entire university. The man at this point who is in charge of marshaling all of our forces to do this is Father Kevin Quinn, and I invite him to the podium.
Thank you, Hal, and also thank you very much for all you've personally done to create this building. Thank you. Before we formally dedicate the Loyola Science Center, it is appropriate to put the most significant building in our history into some context. As we have already heard, the seeds for a new science center were planted some 15 years ago. Our first-year students, who can look forward to 4 years in these halls, had not even started their academic journeys. The university was anticipating the need for several major capital improvements, including a desperately needed campus center and residence halls for sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Inspired by new ideas of how to teach and learn science, our faculty and academic administrators refined their vision and methodically, some might even say scientifically, built their case. In the meantime, they watched as the De Naples Center, Dion Campus Green, and Condren Hall transformed the campus. They wondered, as I've been told, could they still achieve their dream, our dream? As I've heard from Hal Bailey and Joe Dreisbach, our very dispassionate scientists can exhibit considerable persuasive passion when they need to. Very fortunately for us, the case for Scranton to invest in an academic building has never been done before more compellingly. It was imperative and infectious. Even, I say, even our finance folks caught fire with creativity to find various ways to pay for this building. Our Loyola Hall of Science, conceived in the 1950s to consolidate science departments, was now a serious impediment to the collaboration and interdisciplinary work that was fast becoming the norm in science education. As Geralyn put it so well, Loyola Hall was a place that students dreamed and prayed to be out of. Today we stand in a place that will inspire dreams and prayers of a different sort, ones that encourage our students and our faculty to seek God in all things. Before our formal dedication, I want to thank our trustees, donors, and friends who supported and sustained our vision, and the architects and construction experts who brought it to life so beautifully. I also want to thank my predecessors, Joe McShane and Scott Pillars, the Science Center Advisory Committee, the Steering Committee, Joe Dreisbach, and our incomparable project shepherd, Jorge Gomez. Finally, and most importantly, I want to challenge our students and our faculty to make good use of the resource that we place in your hands. I have every confidence that you are more than up to the task. And now, our dedication. In this magnificent edifice, we gather at a time in human history when science and technology are revamping our worlds, illuminating our minds, and sculpting our souls. As Jesuit and Catholic, the University of Scranton is a welcoming community serving the entire world by educating men and women who will combine the expertise of the sciences and techniques of business with wisdom and love of the humanities. We gather today in great gratitude for the gifts we have been given and for those who foster the flourishing of those gifts by their exceedingly generous philanthropy. Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we ask your blessing this day. Bless our efforts to pursue knowledge and teach what we have learned. As Moses proclaims, I have set before you death and life. Choose life. Let this Science Center foster a better life for all. In the Quran, we read, God is with those who patiently persevere. Let those who teach, learn, and do research in the Science Center persevere in the vocation to which they are called. Jesus tells us, we shall know the truth, and the truth shall set us free. Help all who pass through these classrooms and halls know the joys of intellectual pursuits and the peace that comes from realizing humbly we are servants of something much greater than ourselves. Let the people of Scranton, the Lackawanna Valley, the United States, and the entire world be beneficiaries of the discoveries that will be made here. This gleaming Science Center, named for a poor Basque dreamer who imagined a new way of relating to God, will be a place where imaginations and hearts are set on fire. The great Jesuit scientist Teilhard de Chardin wrote, what paralyzes life is the failure to believe and the failure to dare. What is difficult is not solving problems, but formulating them. Yet the world will take that step. For everything that is more true does come about, and everything that is better is finally achieved. Someday, after mastering the winds, the waves, the tides, and space, we shall harness, for God, the energies of love. And then, for the second time in history, the human family will have discovered fire. May this building and all of the University of Scranton be an agent of God's kingdom, setting the world on fire with justice and hope, peace and love, freedom and faith. And we ask this prayer in the name of Jesus the Lord. Amen.